Hey there, my name is Alex, I am the Silver Mont, and this video is a guide for all of the level 50 primals or trials in Final Fantasy XIV. Think of this as a quick cheat sheet, a digest guide. I'm not going to go very in-depth on every fight's mechanics, I'm just going to tell you the important things that you need to know if you're going into it for the first time. There are time codes on the screen now if you want to skip to a specific fight. Keep in mind this will be the level 50 versions of the fights, the hard mode, not the extreme or any other versions. And if there are fights missing, such as Cape Westwind, that'll be because there's either no worthwhile mechanics to cover, or the fight will go by so fast you don't need to worry about them. So let's get started. The important thing to note for Ifrit would be the nails. When Ifrit reaches certain health thresholds, he'll spawn infernal nails, and if these are not destroyed, his Hellfire ability will be greatly powered up and can result in wipes. So in short, the moment you see nails spawn, focus your damage on them. Defeating the nails can rapidly fill the limit break meter too. This will probably be your first time coming across limit breaks in full party content. The general usage for them: if it's a boss fight, then any melee damage dealer will use Limit Break 3. Casters and ranged damage dealers, bards, machinists and so on, do AoE damage, but less than the melee. Ranged physical does a line, casters do a big circle. Tanks have a large damage mitigation defense buff for the party, which is required in, at time of writing, 2 normal fights in the game to survive. Healers Limit Break 3 will auto-revive everyone in the party and fully heal them. So if you're down a number of people and a healer has the Limit Break 3 ready, that's the best use for it. So a quick reference for most encounters would be, melee will be doing a limit break on the boss. If you have a caster or a ranged damage limit break, the best use for that is either if there's multiple adds in a boss phase that it needs it for, or if you're doing a dungeon and you have a large pool of adds, use it there, as you'll get more benefit for using it on a giant pool than you will for using it on a boss in a leveling dungeon, for example. If Gilgamesh turns you into a toad, you just need to run away from the chickens until the debuff wears off by itself. In the second phase of the fight, he will start casting Confusion, which causes players to start attacking teammates. The way to rectify this is simply to heal the confused player to maximum health, removing the debuff. Throughout the fight, Garuda will spawn feathers that attack the pillars. Destroy these feathers, as you'll be using the pillars to avoid Garuda's Mistral Song ability she uses after flying out of the arena for a moment. So if you see her flying out and then using Mistral Song, just stand behind a pillar away from her so that the pillar blocks the damage. Eventually she'll clear out all the pillars and spawn whirlwinds around the arena. Avoid these and then she'll spawn 2 adds, Chirada and Supana. These will tether to Garuda in red and green tethers. The main tank should provoke the green tether, so main tank is fighting Garuda and the green tether, whilst the other tank, the off tank, takes the red tether. Kill the green tether first and then the red, then continue fighting Garuda. Green tether heals Garuda, that's why we kill it first. Frankly, it's very possible both will die within 5 seconds, so don't stress too much over it. Of the level 50 primals, King Mog is one of the more likely ones to cause a wipe. Thankfully these days it's not nearly so bad as it used to be. Now you just have to worry about the music. But there's still some important things to note. The fight begins with fighting individual Moogles, showing you their abilities. Someone may choose to mark the Moogles. This will generally be the kill order, such as 1, 2, 3. Obviously you kill the one marked 1 first. The Mogs spawn one at a time, and in the past, it was a lot more likely to see them spawning before you killed the last one. The DPS is so high these days that you'll probably be killing them long before the second one and third one show up. After they have been consecutively defeated, King Mog will pop up and revive them all. At this point, do not damage King Mog. First, the main tank should take King Mog, Whiskerwall, the Paladin Moogle, and Ruffletuft, the Warrior Moogle, into one edge of the room, keeping the Moogles facing the outer edge of the arena, so that their cone attacks go out into nothing, instead of being directed into the middle of the arena. Meanwhile, the rest of the group kills the remaining Moogles. Once they've all been defeated, with the tank Mughals coming up last, then you just DPS down the king. Titan's Tank Buster, Mountain Buster, deals very high damage and has no cast time, meaning that if you're a tank or a healer, be prepared for it to come out. Never stand in front of Titan, and remember this is true for almost every boss in the game. Never stand in front of the boss unless you are the one tanking it, or there is a specific mechanic that needs you there. At certain health thresholds, Titan will leap into the air and damage the outer edge of the arena. Stand on the edge of the red marker, not too close to the centre of the arena. The nearer you are to the point of impact, the more damage you take. But of course you don't want to be standing in the red as you will fall off, and falling off means permadeath in this fight, as healers can't raise you. Likewise, be very careful of the landslide ability where Titan fires a line AoE that will knock you off the edge. When Titan places one of the team into a boulder, the Granite Jail, you just need to break the boulder right away. Although be aware there's a good chance he'll be doing landslide on the boulder too. Then we have his other noteworthy attack, the bomb boulders. If the bombs are going in a clockwise order around the arena, let's say starting at 1 o'clock, finishing at 12 o'clock, one will explode, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way around, so you'll want to stand, for example, at 11 or 12. Then after one explodes, you just move to that spot. You move to one after it explodes, whilst all the rest explode, and you will be safe. Leviathan will spawn various adds, from enemies to weird water balls. You just need to take these out right away. If we're talking about priority, the caster enemies and spumes in particular should be prioritised. Early into the fight, Leviathan will split in the sense that you can attack its head or its tail. Melee can hit either. The head will reflect physical ranged damage, the tail will reflect magic, so target accordingly. One tank can grab each. Activate the elemental converter to survive tsunami, and then Leviathan will strike at the arena, causing you to veer in that direction. In hard mode, the normal mode that is, for Leviathan, the barriers will remain, whereas in extreme, they will break. So it's good to be in the habit of moving away from the splashes Leviathan makes before striking the arena. For example, if his splash is on the left side of the arena, then move away from it to the right side, because you'll be veering to the left. Ramuh's Tank Buster, Shock Strike, is incredibly powerful and hits in front of him, so as usual, don't be in front of him if you can help it, unless you're tanking. If he casts Chaotic Strike on you, freezing you, or another player, you can shock them out of it with Thunderstorm, so when you have that purple circle around you, intentionally move to hit another player who has been frozen by Chaotic Strike. After the Great Arbiters spawn, kill them immediately. The lightning orbs that spawn around the arena will grant you a buff if you get 3 of them. Usually the tank would be the one grabbing 3 so they can survive Shock Strike, but don't grab any more than 3 or you'll get a healing debuff on you. If you are tethered to another player, you must also grab 3 orbs to break the tether. And don't stand in the water because it will become electrified. Each of the tanks will grab one of the bosses. If you are transformed into an imp, then you must stand in front of Ultros and be hit by his bubble watery attack to get a stacking buff. Get as many of these as you can, and then when Typhon moves to the center and tries to use his big sneeze, his big snort attack, you must cast Imp Punch on him, using these stacks you got from the Ultros water. This will reduce the pushback on his sneeze. Probably the second time this happens, Typhon will be rotating and farting in every which direction, so you'll need to keep moving while staying in front of Ultros too as an imp. What this fight boils down to is don't get knocked off the edge as you get a penalty. Whilst there are virtually no mechanics to note in Shiva as most of the fight is just avoid AoE, I'll instead talk about her different forms, which are more important in the extreme fight. In the normal version, you just need to kill the adds she spawns and avoid AoEs. In sword form, Shiva uses Glacier Bash. This is a stun that she will do on her target, the tank probably, and it has a cast time, and it will hit everything in front of her. Tanks can avoid it, as Shiva won't move whilst casting it, so if you see her casting Glacier Bash, you can move through her to stand behind her, for example. Whereas Ice Brand's damage will split between everyone it hits, so it's good to have lots of people struck by it. In essence, it's the opposite of Glacier Bash. When she enters bow form, you will need to stand behind her, as she will wipe out everything in front of her and to the sides. This is the other level 50 fight you can expect to see some wipes now and then, so that's why you're here. In this fight, there's 3 main things to watch out for. If you're a tank or healer, watch out for double and triple. He'll be using these to cast Spark twice or 3 times in a row. So if you're a tank, have your good mitigations ready for when you see triple coming. If you're a healer, be ready to top up the tank during a double or a triple Spark. After a while, he'll start powering up in the middle and sucking orbs towards him. There'll be 2 different types of orbs. Players need to run into these to stop them reaching the boss. Do not run into the same orb more than once, so alternate between Orb A and Orb B. In the tail end of the fight, he'll draw you all into another realm. In this new arena, time moves very slowly, meaning that any buffs you had on before entering will be lasting much longer. So it's a great time to pop cooldowns, whether it's Hallowed Ground, Sprint, a damage buff, anything. As soon as you see yourself being drawn in to the portal, pop some cooldowns. In this new area, meteor circles will spawn and begin descending. One player needs to stand on these so that they take the damage instead of it hurting the entire group. Preferably, tanks should be the only ones standing on them, and you only need one person standing in there too. After the first one drops, an ethereal tear will spawn. One of the melee damage dealers should limit break this immediately, so you always want to save limit break 3 in this fight for this very moment. Everyone else should be focusing this tear, and a limit break from a monk, samurai, any melee damage dealer will crush it immediately, freeing you from this realm. If you don't kill the tear quickly, a large meteor will come down and wipe you all out. This fight is closer to a siege from Monster Hunter than a traditional 14 fight. The entire group should focus on fighting Vishap and any adds that spawn, whilst one healer and one tank man the turrets that spawn in the boss arena periodically. These turrets can shoot Vishap for high damage, about 2000, as well as stunning enemies and so forth. The reason one tank and one healer should be on them is because they will benefit the most from the increased damage, if you want optimal DPS. When you reach the first Dragon Killer tower, one of those on the cannons, the tank or the healer, should climb the tower, then wait for Vishap to enter the target circle, then fire. On the second Dragon Killer tower, you will need to snare Vishap first, otherwise he will jump and avoid the shot. The cannon duo will use the snares, then run up and fire the Dragon Killer. One of the duo can actually use both snares whilst the other climbs the tower, although it's very possible and likely you will defeat Vishap before this point. If he does get even further, which is unlikely, but I'll cover it just in case, you'll see some barrels eventually. Stay away from these barrels. When Vishap steps on them, they will explode, probably killing him these days. Make sure you keep all of the adds grouped up beneath Vishap. This way, the players on the cannons can hit everything in one go. One tank will take Gilgamesh, the other Enkidu. All of the damage must be on Enkidu, because Gilgamesh will be healed constantly. There's no point attacking him. Cleanse debuffs with Isuna. If you are shrunk and tethered to another player, you need to run into them to remove the debuff. After Enkidu is defeated and phase 2 begins, watch out for the chain Gilgamesh uses. If you are targeted by this chain, you should move as far away from Gilgamesh as you can, to weaken the chain. The longer the chain is, the weaker it is, whilst other players free you from it by attacking the chain ASAP. Other than this, just avoid AoEs. And that about covers it. The other fights are either trivial or have no real mechanics worth noting, such as Odin, who hits very hard, but you just need to avoid the attacks and make sure you don't let him survive to cast Santetsuken. Whereas if you're fighting with Hydra for the relic weapon, just make sure you stand close to him when he casts Hysteria. Next time we'll cover the level 60 trials. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time. If you have any questions, ask them down below and I will respond ASAP. Ciao.